Hello, leader. You might think your team has a performance issue, but what if the real problem is something you've been avoiding? Here's what I see behind the scenes of successful businesses. Not failing businesses, successful ones. They're busy, they're booked, they're growing, and yet the experience for their clients and customers is inconsistent. A different tone, different looks, different standards, depending on who the client gets. As a business owner, you may even get feedback from your clients and customers where they ask for a specific team member. I do that myself. When I book a spa treatment, I ensure and then double check that my esthetician is going to be my favorite person. Because I know what I like, and I'm paying top dollar for this treatment, so I want the best experience. Are you finding that specific team members are easily booked out and exceeding their minimal billable hours? Well, there's a reason for that. And today, we're talking about how one leadership move that you can make will ensure all of your team members are highly requested and referable. Welcome to the Stacking Your Team podcast, smart leadership for women who mean business. This show has been on air since 2018 to help women who own established brick-and-mortar businesses fix the people side of their business so they can stop carrying payroll pressure, stop over-functioning as the default decision maker, and build a team that actually performs without burning anyone out or damaging their reputation. I'm your host, Shelli Warren. My entire career has been built on leadership coaching, team development, and creating accountable, productive cultures inside real workplaces. Over here, we don't just talk about leadership, we live it. This isn't online leadership theory, academic research, or HR speak. The work we do here is grounded in real teams, real workplaces, and real consequences. Each episode delivers practical, no-fluff strategies to help you lead a team that can carry the business forward with you, not on your back. And I'll say it again, the team that got you here might not be the team that gets you there. Let's go. Do you find yourself mumbling things like this inside your head? They should just know this stuff. It's common sense. I don't want to have to micromanage people. I thought I hired adults. And while you're thinking these thoughts, your team is guessing about what they're supposed to do. And that's where inconsistency creeps in. Some people perform a task one way, while others will do it another way. So your brand experience becomes dependent on the individual that's scheduled today, not the business itself. I mean, I've walked out of shops because my favorite person is not in today. I'm sure you've done this too. It all comes down to this truth. If your standards live in your head, your team is left to interpret your brand, and that's risky and likely costing you sales and referrals. You might be reluctant to set standards in your business because you don't want to get labeled by your team as being too controlling, or too detailed, or difficult to work for. Over time, you can also try and convince yourself that it's, not that big of a deal that things aren't done exactly the way you'd prefer. Usually because you're worried that if you did spell out your expectations to your team, or, some of them might push back on you with comments such as, "You're really going to tell me what I can and can't wear to work?" But here's the truth of the matter. It's your business, and avoiding setting standards doesn't make you easy to work for. Nope, it makes you unclear to work for. For some people, they might like the come-as-you-are vibe or anything goes culture. And how's that working out for you? Your business is at a point where your leadership matters, and it's time that you and your team understand that standards aren't about control, they're about clarity. Let's talk about how every interaction your clients or customers have with you, your team, your space, your website, your social media, and various forms of communication shapes their perception of what they'll get when they buy from you. It all comes down to their first impression, the tone of voice, those all-important visual cues, and then there's the environment itself. So what's the bottom line? Your customers shouldn't have to wonder what kind of experience they're going to get today based on who they'll be interacting with or who will be providing their services. No way. Instead, your clients and customers should feel confident and look forward to their time with you and your team. And if your products and services are hinged on your team's mood, your mood, the day of the week, or who is out sick, you are going to feel that in your revenue. Instead, I want to encourage you to think about what kind of experience you want to offer inside your business. And the more clear you get on that, the better it will be for everyone. Now, you've likely spent some cash on branding, logos, color themes, fonts, the whole shebang. So let's start with the basics of setting standards in your business that elevate that branding and help your team to uphold your branding vision every single day. I'm going to share 4 standards that you can set today, the kinds your team can actually follow and your clients will immediately feel. You just need to set them, role model them for yourself, and then hold your team accountable to them too. Here's the first one. What is everyone wearing at your workplace? I said it. Clothing matters because it instantly tells everyone what they can expect, and it assures people that they're in the right place. Here's how dress codes go off the rails. You tell a new team member, wear something professional. Now, when you say this, it can be misunderstood, especially for people who are entering the workforce. They don't know what you mean. That's why I'm a fan of dress code photos to be included in your employee handbook, and lots of photos of your current team and the workplace on your social media and website that demonstrate to any new person joining the team what's to be expected. It can also clearly demonstrate to your clients and customers what they can expect too. Now, personally, I am not a fan of ripped jeans in any workplace. I want to see dark washed jeans that fit well and that can be paired with a great jacket or a blazer or a blouse and a belt that elevates the look overall. Call it out in your dress code. No ripped jeans, no concert t-shirts, no tops that show midriffs or cleavage, etc. Call it out. Most times it's easier and more clear to say what clothing is not acceptable. Many of my clients who don't provide an actual uniform to their team members can find setting this standard difficult, especially if they have multiple locations or some remote team members. You see, it's hard to check in on this. That's why you need to stay on top of it. Have team leaders demonstrate and reinforce the standards and mention dress code adherence in feedback and performance reviews. You want people to know that what they're wearing is on point. Reinforce it every chance you get. After all, upholding a dress code isn't a risk just for your new hires. It can also be a risk for long-standing team members who become complacent and, overly comfortable with their own comfort level at work. Now, if your workplace does offer uniforms or a stipend for uniforms, being clear on colors, fit, style, and care for the clothing, that all matters. We've all been to a dentist appointment and seen a hygienist whose uniform is not pressed, obvious pit stains or food stains, and generally, it's noticeable that they haven't taken care of that morning while getting ready for work, or the clothing is simply worn out and needs to be replaced. That goes for shoes, too. It can be off-putting for a client or customer to purchase services from you and then feel let down or downright uncomfortable about their provider's appearance. One important thing to remember to include in your employee handbook when you roll out your dress code standards is the fact that if you're going to wear the uniform after work, they are still a visible extension of your brand. Wearing a uniform or an article of clothing that has your brand or logo on it identifies them as a team member out in public. They are easily identifiable. People notice and watch how they behave, and that can work in your favor or against it. After all, the UPS driver in line at a grocery store is still a UPS driver in everyone's mind, even though he's off the clock. This goes for your team members doing school pickup, pumping gas, or out on a coffee run. That uniform creates familiarity, and that's what you want. So coaching and feedback around appearance needs to be a normal conversation that takes place all year long, both the suggestions to improve and the appreciation for anyone who's maintaining your standards. So the standard here is we show up in a way that reflects the level of trust, professionalism, and consistency our clients and customers expect every single time. Let's talk about virtual call appearance standards. This is a common standard that can drift very easily if it's not addressed. I have a client who told me she was starting to worry about some of her team members hosting client calls because she'd noticed that they had significantly dialed back their home office appearance, both the space and their personal appearance. Calls that took place in the business offices were also kind of a hit and miss and needed a reset too. So we planned a team meeting whereby everyone would get a mini glow up with experiments in lighting, camera placement, background noise, volume setting, space setup, desk height, and then reset expectations about consistency for that setup and putting away any other devices that could be a distraction. So the goal wasn't to insist that everyone has a super fantastic workplace at home. It was about creating a system that ensured they were ready, set, and on point for every call they had, including their own team meetings, both when they were working from home and when they were at the office. Here's the thing about this standard not being met. If your client is showing up professionally and your team is not, you've already created a gap in trust. And I know you don't want that. So the standard here is we show up on every call as if we're face-to-face with a client, prepared, present, and professional. All right, let's talk about standards in communication. Now, this is a doozy because we want our clients and customers, when they walk into your business, to feel like they're in the right place and that you and your team get them. This is often why some people will walk out of a business or ask to reschedule if their favorite person isn't there. Now, you can end this dilemma by setting standards around your preferences of what you want your team to say, not say, and of course, teach them how to say it. Here's some examples. Instead of saying to a client or customer, "No problem," have your team reply, "I'm happy to help." And instead of saying to a client or customers, "Sorry, you'll have to come back tomorrow," have your team say instead, "Here's what I can do for you today." You can also get crystal clear on words and phrases you do not use. You want to reinforce things with your team that you do not want them to say. Now, depending on the type of business that you have and the type of workplace and the clients and customers who visit your space, you might want to tweak these, but here's some examples. Referring to your clients as patients when instead you'd rather have your team refer to them as clients. Referring to your customers as customers when what you would really like your team to refer to them as guests. So instead of calling your new hire a newbie and apologizing to your client that they're going to be paired with them for their session, you'd say something like this instead. Cheryl is our newest team member. She joins the team with a wealth of enthusiasm and experience in X, Y, Z, and you're going to appreciate your time together. So you want to teach your team how to talk, how to write emails, how to respond to questions, and how to sell using practice sessions, frequently asked question run-throughs, and providing templates. And then, of course, you also want to reinforce to them that the brand voice needs to be just as recognizable as the logo or the signage on the building or the level of service, and then, of course, everyone's appearance. It's the cohesiveness of the client's or customer's experience is what matters. You want to ensure that every one of them comes back and they bring their friends. So the standard here is We choose our words on purpose because how we say it is part of how we're experienced. Here's a gap many business owners miss because there's no set standard, and it quickly becomes a point of frustration for you and your highest performing team members. They can get really frustrated about this too. Here's the first gap. What your space looks like before the first client walks in. And here's the second gap. What condition it's left in at the end of the day. If you don't define how the day starts or ends, it will undoubtedly lead to inconsistent openings. Now, I see this firsthand at my office because it's on a main street downtown. It's unbelievable how many shops open after the standard time that everyone expects. I'm sure there's a reason, but many people's mornings are rushed. However, I've seen people standing outside a shop in the morning ready to return something or ready to buy something, and the doors are locked. That is never a good look. I've also witnessed a bank teller be 15 minutes late for her start of shift on the last Friday of the month. She arrives frazzled, weaving her way through a terribly long lineup, and then we all got to watch her go through her opening day tasks while the bank manager and one other teller served customers. Again, not a good look. This can also look like team members having the idea that, well, we'll deal with that tomorrow, only to be faced with a whopping snowstorm the night before, requiring them to delay opening by shoveling off their steps or walkways, while customers sit in their vehicles waiting to get inside for their scheduled appointments. Not a good look. It can also look like a gradual decline in standards that goes unchecked for way too long, and this can feel much bigger of a deal to address than if you talked about it in real time when you first started noticing the drift. And people can actually start to think, oh, I thought you changed your mind about that. So here's the thing. Your opening and closing routines are not tasks. They are leadership tools that protect your standards. See if you can relate to this. Before any standards, this is what you'd see at a workplace. The team trickles in. Music is turned on whenever. Supplies are not fully stocked. The first client of the day was essentially a test run. But after introducing a startup checklist, you'd see this instead. Lights are on in a consistent sequence. The music is set, so same volume, same tone. The scent is set up, so your diffusers are refreshed. The rooms are prepared. There's an identical standard in every single room. And the front desk is ready. No scrambling. And the team appearance gets checked before the first client arrives. So what is the result? The first client of the day now gets the same experience as the busiest hour of the afternoon. And here's an example of a shutdown checklist standard because your day starts the night before. So before there was no shutdown checklist, you'd see things like this. End of day fatigue, which always leads to shortcuts. The team having an attitude of, oh, just leave that. We'll handle that in the morning. Or leaving an overflow of laundry, clutter, and disorganization. But after introducing a shutdown checklist, you'd see this instead. Garbage is removed every single day. The laundry's completed or staged. Everyone's workstation, every room, the lobby, washrooms, they're all reset to baseline. Inventory is checked and restocked. Personal items are cleared away from any shared spaces. The decor is straightened up and refreshed. And the end of the day walkthrough was completed so that everything was set up for next day's success. So what's the result? No rush mornings, no blame shifting, and no who closed last night frustration. So the standard here is we don't leave problems for the next shift. We leave the space ready for success. If your standards only exist during business hours, you're already behind. This is where a lot of business owners think they have standards, but in reality, they only have intentions. What actually determines the client experience are standards that are consistently met to such a high level that they elevate your brand and your team's capability and credibility. Now, you might not know that inside the Leadership Lab, we work on clear org structure, pay plans, career paths, and compensation alignment. We work on performance standards, hiring standards, accountability conversations, promotion readiness, letting go of chronic underperformers, and reducing founder dependency. Now, this isn't theory. This is real workplace leadership for real brick-and-mortar teams, because you deserve a business that performs without you carrying everyone and everything. You can be strong, you can be respected, and you can lead without fear of being labeled difficult. And you don't have to do that all alone. I'm here for you. If today's episode helps you see your leadership in a new way, I'd love to hear about it. Come connect with me on Instagram, where I'm at Stacking Your Team, and tell me what's troubling you about your team right now. And hey, if you're tuning into this podcast because you work somewhere and you want to develop your leadership skills, I invite you to start following our sister company, Thousand Islands Leadership Consulting. Check us out on Instagram or LinkedIn so you can chart your course to the next level of leadership.
This is Ellie. Come back next Tuesday. My Mimi will have another episode for you.